Hey guys, welcome to the Age of Wonders Planetfall unit unboxing series. Today we're going to look at the Vanguard OWL units. So the Vanguard OWL is a Tier 1 core Vanguard unit. It's a scout class unit. It can be particularly useful to have in certain situations. Can save you a lot of time and effort for some of the roles that it's going to provide. But chances are this unit's not going to really be something that you're going to rely on or try to incorporate as part of your main early and mid-game combat forces. So the OWL unit is generally more useful on the strategic map rather than in tactical combat, but that doesn't mean that there isn't a role for it in the tactical scenario. Because of the passive abilities it has, primarily with how it moves, being a flying unit, and some of the resistances and its support ability, it can be useful in a tactical setting. They're cheap at 130 production and 30 energy. They're cheap to build and maintain, and they're kind of useful for a decent part of the game. So let's take a closer look at the skills that the unit has. So right off the bat, it has some core unit skills that come out of the box that set it apart from other units. Obviously, it's a flying unit, and basically what that means is it's not going to have penalties to moving around on the various terrain types that are found in the game that other land units have to deal with. So 32 movement isn't, a particularly large amount, but because they're never really paying a movement penalty, regardless of where they're moving around, whether it's strategic or tactical map, they really have a good movement range pretty much in any setting, which is nice. Also, it's not really obvious, but flying units come with an inherent 10% evasion against most weapon types in the game, so they're slightly harder to hit. It's also a mechanical unit, and essentially what that means is it's going to take a pretty large reduction from psionic channel damage and a little bit more damage from the arc channel. So it's also mindless, essentially it's immune to morale and other psionic effects as well. So, that's kind of across the board for any of the mechanical units in the game. So it also has the Farsight passive, which is just an additional vision range, 1 hex vision range. And when it's combined with the fact that it's a flying unit, that's kind of why this unit is such an effective scout early on. That being said, let's look at some of the tactical abilities that it has available. So the first one, its primary damage skill is the laser repeater. So it's going to do 9 thermal damage. It's got a range of 5, which is decent. It's repeating. It's affected by line of sight, and it also comes with a inherent 33 additional % damage to other flying units. Thermal channel damage generally is good against mineral and ethereal units, and it does poor against plant, not planet-based units, but little typo there. So that's the laser repeater skill. For targeting field, basically it's an enemy unit that you're going to pick is going to be 35% easier to hit. It's got a range 7, which is actually pretty good. It's a single action skill and a 1-turn cooldown for that. So it sounds like it's kind of a pedestrian skill. It pretty much is, but there's definitely times that it can be worth even risking kind of sacrificing the OWL unit to get that debuff on a high priority target, especially in a case where you can do you have an enemy type that you might be able to do additional damage to based on channels or with other skills that are taken into consideration. So keep that in mind. The progression for this unit, it's pretty similar to how some of the other Tier 1 Vanguard units work. So you basically get small increments to health and accuracy, neither of which are particularly useful for this unit. At the prime level, you'll see you get the prime rank evasive skill, which basically just again is going to make the unit harder to hit. So combined with the fact that it's flying and with this evasive skill, it can be somewhat of a nuisance for other units to try to kill. Of course, when it is hit, it has such a small health pool that it's pretty much screwed. Um, so let's look at the tactics for this unit. For tactical considerations, as I kind of alluded to earlier, the unit's pretty much most effective when it's just on its own, flying around and serving the area in the strategic map. It can be used to annex systems, claim loot, keep an eye on enemy armies, hopefully from a safe distance or through, again, with kind of terrain in mind. And one thing I've noticed with how I've been playing with these is they're so cheap and relatively cheap to upkeep as well that you can kind of keep them around the map. They don't necessarily need to be traveling with your standing army. But if you have a few of them around the map, when the time's right or when you think a situation is right, you can pretty quickly move these, because their movement is so effective. You can get them close enough to your armies to be a part of tactical combat where it's going to be useful, and potentially, based on like what we talked about earlier with the skills, potentially they can have an impact on the outcome. So that's kind of how I've been using this. So, sort of a solo scout unit that's out flying around. If you keep a few of them around the map, you can, when the situation's right, you can incorporate them into an army, and even if it's beyond the original 6 units that you'll get as part of your core army, you can put them as a 7th on a flank, or so on as the armies get bigger later on in the game. But so hopefully that's helpful for you guys. You learn a little bit about this unit. It's kind of an interesting one. It's a cool, I think it's a cool design, and it's fun to use in the game. It has certainly a defined purpose and role, which makes it good. But it's not useful for everything like some of the other units that we're come across. But anyways, hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know in comments if you have questions or have ideas on how to make this stuff better or more useful for you. And that's about it. So thanks for watching.